Hey guys, Krabby Critics here. Today we're going to be reviewing Far Cry 5. So Far Cry 5 is Ubisoft's latest installment in the Far Cry franchise that actually brings us to a more familiar location in America.
More specifically, a fictional Hope County in Montana. It is cut off from the rest of the world by a cult known as Eden's Gate or Project Eden's Gate. They've essentially cut off all the roads, cut all the phone lines, cut any internet access. Somehow they've blocked out planes, but there's some plot holes there, but they're isolated from the rest of the world, and you
Or a deputy
are your deputy.
trying to arrest the father, who is the cult leader, Joseph Seed. And to do that, you gotta defeat all of his
Siblings.
Jacob, John, and Faith. And yeah, that is the basic plot to it. So for this review, we will cover the basics of what we thought of the story and gameplay and give our review. And after we actually give our rating and whatnot, that's when we'll actually go into the specifics and spoilers of the story of the game. But just to start off with simple gameplay and whatnot,
Just
just
overall, as a game, this game, and I know a lot of people are saying this, but because I played both the games as well, I totally get it, and it does feel very much like a cross between the standard Far Cry formula and then they pulled in a little bit from Wildlands.
yeah,
I think
that
it's
makes sense.
kind of a cross between the two because of the different regions, which is kind of was a staple in Wildlands.
Ghost Recon Wildlands for those that don't know what
Ghost
it's talking
Recon
about.
Wildlands. But the general Far Cry like feel of like the weapons and stuff like that was really like true Far Cry. They took it up like quite a few levels in this one, but it was definitely a Far Cry game. It just had some of the, I might say, more successful elements of Wildlands. Some of the elements from Wildlands, but I was not complaining. I love both of those games. So it was a good cross between the two. I didn't even really realize that it was that much influence from that game, and it wasn't like a whole new thing for Far Cry, because I played Far Cry 4, and then I played Wildlands, and then I played this. So it was almost like a little natural progression for me personally. But yeah, what'd you think about it?
I was very impressed with this one. I definitely, compared to a lot of people, I'm more so of an OG Far Cry fan. I played it back.
Because he thinks he's special.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I have more feelings about this franchise than a lot of people. I didn't play the original, but I played the Instincts Predator edition that was released on the 360, and I did play it on the original Xbox as well. So just like from there to now, the franchise has come a long way, and I always have a little bit of reservations about each new Far Cry game just because how much they changed the type of game it is from what it originally was. You know, the gameplay is practically just enhanced. Just as far as any, you could say, paranormal stuff that was in the first one, the Predator aspect and the special abilities and the feral monster side of things and all the different creatures that they had in the original Far Cry and whatnot. I think that stuff is really, really, really cool, and I just want the Far Cry franchise to go back to that and just make something with that. It doesn't have to be Jack Carver or anything. Just something with that. I always want every single time there's a new one. I'm like, maybe? No. But I don't think they're ever going to go back, so it always makes me kind of sad. But this is a separate entity. This is a separate game. Yes, same franchise, same sort of gameplay. But this is separate, and so I have to think of it separately. And it is a very good game. I had a lot of fun with this game. There's just like, you could argue the point that it's a little repetitive.
Yeah, I mean that was true in I maybe not so much in 3, but in 4.
Yeah, and 4, that the repetitivity became kind of a problem in 4.
Yeah, and then I felt that in Wildlands too, which I think like, and I'm constantly tying in Wildlands because it's almost like kind of like a spiritual like cousin to these newer
Yeah.
Far Cry games. Just with like, I guess it's just more militaristic and stuff like that. It's not as like kind of funny comedy and stuff like that as the Far Cry games are. But in Far Cry 4 and in Wildlands and in this game too, once you get to a certain, I guess, level, once you get unlock certain perks and get certain weapons and stuff like that, then everything kind of simplifies down a little bit because encounters are a lot easier to go at, even if you're playing on like hard. Then things get just very like compressed, and like you get like the 50 cal and you get like a rocket launcher and that sort of thing, and just things become easy. And then as they throw more enemies at you, that sort of thing, then it just becomes more of the same.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's fun. Every second of that is fun.
There was like a degree where I was just like, maybe this game's a little too easy. But then I kept dying. Like every time I'd think that, I was like, this game's easy.
I guess
I'm
that's
just
true.
gonna play this like it's an easy game, and then I would die. So it's like you still have to be smart. And then because of, even though it's like kind of repetitive with how things go, because the game has so much to offer, you can go at each different encounter in such a different way.
I'd say that
it helps it out.
the what you're kind of saying about how you think it's easy, the AI in this game are not very forgiving.
That's true.
They they're not the kind, like sometimes they can act kind of dumb.
That's not very Christian of them. Not forgiving, just murdering me.
True. They're cultists.
Yeah.
But of course AI can act very dumb, like they'll just run in like random directions, that sort of thing. But when you're like sneaking up on a base, or like maybe you set the alarm off or something like that, and then you duck behind cover, it just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it sometimes when you think you're done with an encounter, and there's no cues, then something else just happens.
But yeah, I love all the aspects of how you can take each situation differently, and like how you say you can sneak up on a base. Like playing stealth in this game is so much fun with like the bow and arrow. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something versus other games where there's bow and arrow or crossbow or something. Nothing is as satisfying as Far Cry when you shoot somebody with an arrow. It is just, I don't know, there's something about it that it's just like,
It's part of the sound,
they do it really well.
the animations,
And especially when you're able to
all
get
that sort of stuff.
a long range shot and everything, and it's just so great. But then because of like there's so much to offer, I could honestly never fully commit to a certain way of doing things, because there's so many different weapons that you could choose from. But then, like, even though you can carry quite a bit of weapons on you, you're still limited.
Yeah.
And so you're still limited to picking what you absolutely need and what you want. And, you pretty much only have one option to be like, this is the one that I can like switch around and do what I want.
Or else you're making like big compromises in other places.
Exactly. So it's just like I can go a grenade launcher or rocket launcher, but at the same time, I don't need those. And then also the explosive tipped arrows for your bow and arrow is like to pretty much make the bow and arrow just like the way to go constantly, especially because when planes and helicopters would find you, you just shoot a explosive tip arrow at them and then they're gone. And so
the companions.
Ooh, yeah.
So because you could, in the end, you could end up having 2.
Yeah.
Who are your 2 favorite companions?
Hands down, Peaches and Cheeseburger. That is Cheeseburger being a bear and Peaches being a cougar. I got Cougar was like one of the first. Peaches was one of the first ones that I did get, and just the fact of how often
did you go immediately to Faith's region?
Yes, I did.
You did?
I started off in Faith's region. With having Peaches, because the Cougar is more stealth oriented, and I had a lot of fun doing stealth and whatnot. Peaches was just a great add-on to that, and just the fact that you got a giant cat with you, and then you have the option to go and pet it, and it just does a little animation.
I did that,
makes a little kitty meow, and you're just like, you're so adorable, Peaches.
I did that so often with Cheeseburger. Like, I'd be like, Cheeseburger, you just successfully mauled this entire camp of people. Good boy.
That's the thing with, like, Peaches is all stealthy and whatnot. As long as you're not being detected, Peaches isn't going to get detected, because Peaches is, like, right there with you, and you can just tell her to go stealth attack somebody, and she'll do it. But if you got Cheeseburger with you, Cheeseburger shows up there, it's like, it's a bear! And they just start shooting the bear, and then the bear just murders everybody.
Sometimes with, like, the game, like, sometimes doesn't realize that Cheeseburger is a freaking bear and like giant, and sometimes you'll be stealthing around, like maybe there's a hilltop and there's like some guys like held up there, that sort of thing, and you're like sneaking on the side of the hill, like maybe
big ass bear with you,
and
just like
yeah, but Cheeseburger is like following behind you for a second, and then you maybe get like up into the edge of the hill, and Cheeseburger just runs up the hill. And there's just in front of you there, like right in front of the enemies. But the game doesn't realize that, like, oh, they can't see you, so they also can't see your big freaking bear.
Yeah. The one thing that they do kind of compromise with that is, like, one dude sees you. You can easily take him out with Peaches and then go back to stealth, and Peaches go back to stealth.
Yeah.
You can't do that with Cheeseburger. Like, one dude sees you, Cheeseburger's like, it's time to kill everybody.
I feel like Cheeseburger got downed a lot for me because he would just,
everyone would shoot at him.
Well, everybody would shoot at him, and I don't know how true this was with the other animal companions, but Cheeseburger really loved to be in front of you. Yeah. And would get constantly hit by trucks and stuff like that.
The only other animal companion is a dog. What was his name again? Was it like Boomer or something?
Boomer, yeah.
I didn't use Boomer that much. I use him a little bit. I do see some benefits as to why Boomer would be good, but as far as those benefits, the main benefits, like he can like bring guns to you and stuff, I would say that's only really a benefit for early on in the game.
Yeah, so, I mean, I did start out in the region where you get Boomer, so I did end up using Boomer quite a bit. I also used Boomer a lot when I like wanted to like jump off of a cliff or something like that, and maybe I wasn't super confident that I was gonna make the landing.
Okay.
But it wasn't high enough to like kill me instantly, so I'd get downed, or I go into a situation and get down. He seemed like he was the best to come get you revived.
I would agree with that, because there's many times where Peaches and Cheeseburger just left me. I just died.
Yeah, I feel like I only got revived by Cheeseburger like twice. The rest of the time I just died.
Yeah, I mostly had Peaches the whole game. Because Cheeseburger I didn't get until like the last region, because I saved Jacob's region for last, and that's where he's at.
What about human companions?
Human companions, Turk is pretty great, or Herc, yeah. Herc is pretty great just because he's super funny. Makes all his comments, and he has a rocket launcher, so that's really nice. Helicopter lady, whatever her name is, I don't remember. I liked her because, you know, she's got a helicopter. And then the hunter chick I liked.
My favorite, so I usually had either Cheeseburger or Boomer. Most of the time it was Cheeseburger. Until I got like sick of Cheeseburger running into the AI that I was trying to follow, and then the AI just like stops for a second. Yeah. Anyway, the second one I liked the most was the guy with the biplane, with the yellow biplane.
Oh yeah, I don't remember his name.
He like when he was in the sky, like the random stuff that he would say, like it made like an emotional connection
Oh yeah.
between him because he was like your homie,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And his like his little side mission that you go with, you're like helping his wife like drive to the and it's not really a hospital, but essentially the hospital to deliver their baby.
Yeah.
And so like you become homies.
Yeah.
And
True
then also his
homie.
abilities are super cool. You can just like call in an airstrike.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And he was really good at taking out planes. Where I feel like the helicopter lady, she died a lot. Or she would like crash and then she'd get out of her helicopter and she'd just be walking around like a normal NPC and then she would be next to useless.
Or I would be riding with her in the helicopter, and then she would just get the helicopter blown up, and so I would die.
I never quite figured out how to like really direct her around with the helicopter.
It was kind of hard.
Like every time you issued a command, it was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll land there." Like, no, I just want to go over the cliff.
Oh, I didn't have her like land. Like that was never an issue. She just
Mm.
wouldn't really follow it that well. She'd be like, okay, and then like go like somewhere else, and like it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But just the fact she has a helicopter was helpful in many situations, and then she could pick you up with hairy situations because you just use your grappling hook and then climb up to her. So that was
That's
always
true.
nice, and especially if you're at a point where you can't fast travel or anything, you just call her over. You got a helicopter, and now you can go over somewhere. But yeah, the companions definitely a smaller part of the game. When you do unlock the ability to have two companions, I mostly just had cheeseburger and peaches at the same time, which was pretty great but then like there were several moments where it wasn't too much fun because they just did all the work. They just killed everybody. I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Sometimes I would just kind of. A lot of the time I'd go no companions,
yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
and then I would regret it when I needed to like get revived
Yeah,
or something like that.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
just give or take.
Yeah, because there's many moments where you just automatically all of a sudden don't have a companion, and I would just often honestly just forget. So it was only those certain moments where I was like, oh yeah, I should get this person for this.
Favorite weapon and or vehicle.
I mean, bow and arrow, I feel like I've talked about a lot. I definitely like that. I found the double barrel shotgun actually quite useful. That just because you can have slugs with it, you can have normal buckshot, and you can have incendiary rounds, and that just kind of helped in like every situation. The slugs I didn't use that much, because anything a little bit longer range, I just would use bow and arrow. But those incendiary rounds are definitely very useful for like vehicles or just the heavier units that wouldn't die. So I just set them on fire and then they're dead.
Yeah.
So that one, and there's also something about AK-47s in Far Cry.
Yeah.
They're just great versus other games. Like AK-47 is just great in Far Cry. It's just satisfying. Just reloading it, everything in Far Cry. They just do really well with their guns, honestly. But like most of the time, I ran with bow and arrow, the double barrel, my silenced pistol, and a M60. And the M60 it would just pop out in those hairy situations and whatnot. And that one was just
feel like Rambo.
very satisfying. Just mowing down people and whatnot. It's just like, all right, situation taken care of. I can move on.
Yeah.
The only thing with those, like any of the LMGs, is you run out of ammo really fast.
True.
The M60 definitely has a slower fire rate, so I didn't run out of ammo with that as much. So that's why I used that one more than the other LMGs, just because I felt like one encounter, also I'm out of ammo with the LMGs, any other type of LMG. As far as vehicles, I did spend a lot of time just flying around in a helicopter, just taking outposts that way. Just because you just fly over there, you just gun everybody down, shoot some missiles, and then you're just like, all right, and you can just get to places fast and everything. So definitely say that was probably my favorite. Just using helicopters is really fun.
Yeah, my favorite guns, I was very impartial to the bolt action 50 cal. Just because it was like so satisfying to use, and because my name is Barrett, I'm very impartial to 50 cal rifles. So that one was very fun to use. I got Jacob's rifle initially, before I was even able to purchase or even maybe unlock the just the default ones.
Yeah.
And then once I got the default one, then I just put a suppressor on that, and the game was done. Like, I got very good at like bombing and weaving and just taking people out because it was essentially an instant kill with that gun because it's 50 cal. I very much like the novelty 1911, the gold one with the extended barrel on it. That one was very satisfying to use. Just the 1911 general was pretty satisfying to use, but that one was even better because it had the longer barrel and it was golden. Other than that, I'd actually use the throwing knives quite a bit. Like, it was fun to see how far I could throw a throwing knife. I honestly
about the throwing knives a lot of the time, though.
Well, I used the bow, like, kind of near the beginning a little bit, and then I realized that I always had throwing knives on me, so I would just use that for the really stealthy kills, and I'd see how long I could chuck them, to see if I could get somebody on, like, a top of a tower or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was fun to do. What else did I use? I used the guided rocket launcher a lot, and I would try and do tricks of it because I remember the good old days before it was patched in Battlefield 4. Where you could use the guided rocket launcher and just do the most wild things ever.
Yeah.
So I like that one a lot. In terms of vehicles, I did use the helicopter a lot that you unlocked by doing the helicopter ladies missions. Geraldine, was that her name?
I think so. That sounds right.
Something like that. I used the yellow biplane a lot until I unlocked the one that has all the guns on it. And also for trucks, I would just get any truck that had the 50 cal on it, and then that would make outposts easy because you would just drive right into the outpost, like with still your foot on the gas, and then you could transition to the turret by just popping through the back window, getting on the gun. And I would do that when there's just like some Peggies, which is the name for the cultists, the slang word for the cultists. They'd just be on the road doing something. Maybe they have a hostage or something like that, or they're about to burn somebody alive or something like that. And I just could be coming down the road and then transition to the turret and take them out, keep going.
So many times where I accidentally killed the hostage, though. I was like, oops.
Yeah, I did that a lot too.
Especially when they're in the vans. So I just unload on the van. It's like, dude, I killed civilians. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, one time I forgot the difference between the different symbols. When's like something is approaching you.
Yeah.
So I put a mine down because I thought it was like a tanker truck or something.
Nope, it was hostages.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. One of the parts of the game which is not a serious part at all. It is literally there just for fun, and I think it is just great. Is the Clutch Nixon challenges?
Oh yeah.
Those are just so much fun. What that is just a daredevil dude that is just like all these monuments of because he was just this crazy daredevil guy who did these crazy stunts and everything. And so what you do is you just try to beat his time or whatever. And
I hate
every
the gliding ones. I hated those so much. One of them took me I think like almost 40 attempts.
So great.
Yeah.
The reason, like, probably the number one reason they're so great is like they're ultra, just like the America, yeah.
Hyper American.
Because like it starts off with an eagle flying by every single time, and it has like this kind of 80s rock song that they made for it, and it's so great. And like there's fire everywhere when you're going.
The checkpoints are literally like stars and stripes.
And it just has like the fireworks blowing when you get past the finish line and whatnot. And just the song is just so great. Like every time, like I would just get into the song like as I'm going. It was great. And but yeah, those were actually difficult though.
Yeah.
Especially like there was that the wingsuit one took me forever. And the ATV one actually was kind of challenging for me as well.
That one not so
Once
much.
I got a hang of it, it was kind of easy. But like when I was just trying to actually go fast, I just kept like touching the slightest thing, and then also flying and hitting something, just barely missing the objective point.
It took me quite a few tries on the biplane one, which was actually the first one that I did.
Oh, okay.
Because like the plane was like, I mean, of course, it's very sensitive to you hitting the wings on things.
Yeah.
But because of like how my field of view was, it was very hard to on the very tips of the wings. It was very hard to judge like how close they were to objects.
Yeah.
So I would get too close, and then the plane it wouldn't blow up half the time, but it would just grab onto the tree and then like swing me around the tree. And I just like instant restart because I know I'm not going to hit the next checkpoint.
Yeah. Those are definitely a highlight of the game for me.
Yeah. So let's talk about story.
Yeah. So before we get into the story, let's go ahead and give our ratings. A little bit about the story. I personally thought the story was really, really good. Any gripes about it is the way the story's integrated with the gameplay. It makes it a little repetitive. It kind of gives that repetitive feel to it.
It's also kind of forced.
Yeah, just because how you have your interactions with all these bad guy characters, the way it makes you interact with them, I think was very repetitive, honestly. It wasn't a problem. Well, I mean, it kind of was, but it wasn't the biggest problem.
It was somewhat disorienting.
Yeah,
I would say.
it was just like, this is kind of odd in a realistic sense. This is just doesn't make sense. We can get that when we get into the spoilers. But either way, just taking that out of the factor of how they integrated the story with the gameplay kind of was clunky. I did think it was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole story. If anything, with how engaging and kind of this canvas of what the story was, the end of the game, I do think was, even though I did like the end, I didn't love the end. I think the end was very, like, with the game being like this, the end was like this. It was very small and tight and just this very narrow kind of, this is the way it ends.
Was like an
Yeah,
I mean,
it wasn't an open sort of ending. It was just kind of, and it's like you got this whole journey, you get to the end, here's the end, and it's over. Like the whole game is, there's all these like there's so many different parts to each interaction with all these different characters, and then once you're mainly dealing with Joseph Seed towards the end, it's very small, and then it's over.
Yeah.
And even though I do like the ending, it just kind of threw me off. Kind of felt weird.
Yeah.
But
was like,
I'm still a fan of it.
like Joseph's. So there's the different. There's the there are 5 regions to the game, technically speaking.
3?
Well, because you have like your little home base island,
Yeah, I guess,
and that's its own region, and then you have Joseph's Island, and like it almost scales like how large the ending was, or like how long each part was like to the zone.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like I
'cause,
really
each zone is huge, and the story right there is huge, and so then the story at the end is small, and it just kind
tiny
of
little island ending.
Yeah, which wasn't terrible, but just kind of
we'll get into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, the integration of gameplay, story, there's the multiplayer as well. I played a little bit.
I did not play the multiplayer.
I played the multiplayer back in like Far Cry 2 and 1 and everything, and I didn't play it with like Far Cry 3 at all.
It's never really been that popular.
Far Cry 3. It's never been popular, but like I really enjoyed it in Far Cry 2. I wanted to play in Far Cry 3. I just never actually did. With this though, because the way they went at it, it felt kind of weird. It was built into their little arcade thing, and it was actually kind of fun, but it just turned into melee combat, which was kind of annoying because just like in the campaign, which you get in a lot of different games, is you run up to somebody, you don't even have to be that close. You hit the melee button, and then you run up to them, like stab them or something, and they're dead. They didn't alter that at all for the multiplayer. So then you player versus player, you're shooting, and then also because you're strong in the campaign, you got to be a little bit stronger in the multiplayer versus other games. So they're a little too strong in the multiplayer. So then when somebody's running at you, you're shooting them, and then they just hit the melee button while they're still 5 feet away from you, and you die. And it's like, well, this is dumb. So as long as there weren't those really dumb melee interactions, like if I didn't have those, I had a better time with the multiplayer. Otherwise, I thought that was just something that they didn't pay attention to and honestly kind of ruined it. Either way, you can still have a little bit of fun with the multiplayer because all the maps on there are community-made maps, which is kind of cool. That is one thing that Far Cry has always done, is have their map editor and everything where you can make your own maps, which is awesome. But yeah, it's just, I honestly couldn't picture myself really playing the multiplayer at all. I might try it again. I played it for a good fair amount of time, but I just couldn't really get into it, so I doubt I'll actually try the multiplayer again, honestly.
You and I should try and do some like co-op and just screw around.
As far as co-op with the story mode, I did play co-op with a different friend just for a little bit, and that was really fun. Like we were having a blast doing that. So their co-op aspect of the game, big improvement from like Far Cry 4 and whatnot. I would say that it's really fun doing co-op. It's kind of like doing it with like just your companion, but it's your friend, and it's super fun. So that's definitely a plus for it. But so as far as a rating for the game, what would you give it? 1 to 10.
So 5 being my average, I would say.
And this is gameplay and story, all of it together.
Yeah. And my rating does not include the co-op aspect or the multiplayer, because I did not do any of those. It was just strictly a single player game for me. So in terms of that, I'd probably give it probably 7.5, 8 out of 10. Just because I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed pretty much every minute of it, even though it was repetitive. It was a solid game. It was very entertaining the whole way. The only reason I don't go higher is because at least the single player aspect of it, I don't think it has a lot of replayability. Because there's really only like one. I mean, there's multiple ways of doing things, but in terms of the story and everything like that, there's really only one way of going at it, and that's just completing everything.
Yeah.
And like as soon as I was done with the game, as soon as I finished all the story modes and stuff like that, the game was like, it was dead. So there are other games where I can come back and I can very happily just kind of screw around and stuff like that. But this was not one of those games, so that's why I didn't rate it any higher. Because I really enjoyed the game, but because of how stale it was post end game, it keeps me from going a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So 8 out of 10.
All right. Yeah, I definitely do feel all those facts. For my personal rating, I'll just go up a little bit. I'll go for 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
For a lot of the game, I honestly was more so feeling a 9 while I was playing and whatnot. But by the end, and just kind of how things went, and the fact that it is a little repetitive, it doesn't have much replayability. It just took it down to 8.5 for me. But that is still a very good rating. Still a super good game. Recommend it. I love the Far Cry games and how they tell their stories and just how crazy they can be and whatnot. And it's just gameplay wise, it's a great game. Story wise, it's a great game. It is a really good game. So I definitely recommend that. As far as
we're gonna spoil everything.
spoilers, if you
Now.
want spoilers, get out of here. The main stuff to talk about is the end, of course.
Should we just talk about the end first?
Yeah,
We're gonna talk about the end first.
Well, I mean,
This is your warning.
there's not much more to talk about of the other stuff rather than the end. Mainly the end that we're gonna talk about. So, you kill all the siblings. Then you go to face Joseph Seed, and when you do, so I guess for those who haven't played the game at all, you're a cop, you're a deputy, you show up to arrest Joseph Seed. Joseph Seed's like, nah, God's not gonna let you take me, and we're like, okay. You arrest him, take him out, and get in a helicopter, and then all of his followers pile the helicopter, and as you're taking off, a dude jumps into the blade, and then messes stuff up, and you crash, and then
He gets away.
yeah, and your fellow cop people get taken by them, and you get away. And then, of course, the dispatch, which is, the person that you're communicating on the outside, is all of a sudden a Joseph follower. And it was like, oh, shit, I am really alone right now. But so, yeah. So then you get away. You go through taking out all of his head people of each regions, which is, the siblings. And then you go to arrest him again. And there's technically 3 different endings. Technically, the first ending is in the beginning of the game. It ends in 15 minutes if you just don't arrest him, because you press a button to arrest him. So all you have to do is not press that button, and the game will end.
Similar to Far
You're
Cry.
just like, nah, I'm out.
Similar to Far Cry 4, where
Yeah.
if you
Didn't leave.
if you just didn't get up from the dinner table right at the beginning, then he takes you to go see your mother's ashes, and then the game
Yeah.
ends.
So it's just kind of their own personal Easter egg, like it's kind of funny type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you go back to arrest him. So then when you go to arrest him, he all of a sudden, there's the bliss in the game, which is just their drug to brainwash people. Which is kind of Faith's thing, because she's was like a heroin addict or something like that. But so you go to arrest him, and all of a sudden, oh no, a lot of your companions you made along the way are all of a sudden have the bliss. Like there's like green stuff coming out of their head, because that's what, when they're high on the bliss, that's what's going on. And so then your new friends are pointing guns at your fellow cop companions. And so then he gives Joseph Seed, gives you the option. You can take he's makes some sort of speech about you came here to take my family or whatever. Now I'm giving you the choice to take your family and leave. So just the people that you showed up with being the cops. So then you get an option to take your cop buddies and leave, or don't and try to arrest him. Resist is what that option's called. Most commonly, everyone, of course, chose resist. That one is definitely a lot more than the option of just leaving. Leaving one is definitely the one that's not chosen as much. We can go into that one first just because it's shorter at that point. So when you're going through the game, when you're in Jacob's territory, Jacob is pretty much the military head of the cult. And so he does a bunch of military tactics and whatnot. He has a special elite force that you gotta fight. And so then he does a thing. He captures you and kind of
brainwashes
yeah, he's
you.
brainwashes you and does a like a trigger thing where he plays a certain song, and then
You go ape shit.
you go ape shit and you just kill everybody. And and for you, it's just like you're going through this trippy thing, and you just gotta just shoot a bunch of people that you see, and and so then he keeps throwing you into that and whatnot. So then at the end, you know, you get out of it, and he actually ends up making you kill one of the leaders of the good guys. But so then you get out of it, you kill him and whatnot, and then you move on. Fight Joseph Seed, and you know, you don't fight him. You leave with your cop buddies. You're just like, oh, get in the car and stuff, and the sheriff's just like, okay, let's just get out of here and whatnot. And then there's your other cop buddies being like, no, this isn't right. We gotta arrest him. We can't just leave. And then the sheriff's just like, no, we gotta go. Like, just get out of here. Like, they're all pointing guns at us. Like, this is the best option. So then they leave, and they're on the road and whatnot. There's the other cops still complaining about it, and then the sheriff's just like, no, what we're gonna do, we're not giving up. We're gonna come back. We're gonna get the National Guard this time, and we're gonna rain hell like upon them and whatnot. And he's like talking like that. So it's just like, so, you know, we're not talking about it anymore. And so then they're just driving, and so he turns on the radio, and then your trigger song comes on, and everything starts turning red. And then you look over at the sheriff, and the sheriff's like, you okay, Rook? And then it just ends right there. So this is not a happy ending, because that implies you just murdered everybody in the car. So if it actually showed some of that, that would have been kind of cool. But I mean, ending it just right there is kind of cool as well. So not a happy ending. Everybody dies. And then we go up to the other ending, which is not a happy ending either.
No.
So yeah, you're like, nah, I'm gonna resist. Fight all your friends, get them back to being normal and whatnot. And then you fight Joseph Seed. Then you go up to the point of arresting him. You arrest him, and then he's just like making some speech and whatnot about stuff, and like throughout his whole thing, he is talking about the apocalypse and hellfire raining down on Earth and whatnot, and like how his community is gonna be saved or something like that. I don't know. So he's talking about like that kind of stuff like throughout the whole game. But so then you literally arrest him, and then he's just like talking and whatnot, and all of a sudden a nuke goes off in the background, and you're just like, uh-oh. And so then all of a sudden, you know, it starts reaching to where you are, and you're like, we gotta get out of here, because there's a bunch of bunkers in this whole county. And so you're like, let's get to this certain bunker that we were at. So y'all get in a car with Joseph Seed, and this whole time Joseph Seed is singing Amazing Grace, which is, I thought, was a really cool, creepy element to add to that. And so you're driving through this forest with animals on fire, like running around, and trees falling, and you're seeing more nukes go off in the distance, and it's just like, holy shit, what is happening? And so then you get to you almost get to the bunker, then you crash into a tree, comes down and crashes, and then you wake up. The sheriff's through the windshield, and the other people just look like they're dead. And then you kind of like pass out again, and then you wake up again, and Joseph Seed is actually dragging you. And then you wake up again. You're in the bunker where there was your buddy that you were with that was in the bunker, and it appears that Joseph Seed killed him. So now it's just you and Joseph Seed, and Joseph Seed starts going on about how he was right, and even though he's very angry with you for killing his family, but now
You're his family.
Yeah, you and Joseph Seed are literally all that's left. So he's like, but now you are my family. And then it just like ends there. You're just trapped in this bunker with Joseph Seed, and it's just over. And then like after the credits and everything, you can go back to the menu, and the menu is just like, you know, Hope County. but the menus all of a sudden like everything's destroyed, and it's like it kind of looks like Fallout at that point.
Yeah.
And
That's how the ending was spoiled for me, because it wasn't an actual like spoiler in the sense that they didn't blatantly say the ending, but there was an article like, is the ending of Far Cry 5 the beginning of Fallout? I'm like, there's only one conclusion I can reach from that, and that's that nukes.
Yeah, exactly.
happen.
The funny thing though is like Fallout's a whole different timeline, so that's stupid.
Yeah.
But
I didn't read any more into that article.
yeah. One thing that I saw someone did point out is you can hear like several things on the radio many times. And someone actually said they did hear something about talks between the U.S. and Korea going bad, and people preparing for war and stuff. And so
Yeah, I heard some
the
of that in
assumption,
the radio and stuff
yeah,
like
the
that.
assumption is Korea nuked the U.S. That's what the assumption is. Or, somehow they... Ian's Gate had nukes and destroyed the whole world. I don't know.
They did have like each of the siblings' bunkers were like also giant like missile silos.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think you do see inside the silos.
Yeah, I think
and
Jacob
they weren't.
had like he had a missile, didn't he, or something like that?
He might have.
He
Yeah.
straight up had a missile silo where there's the opening for it and everything.
Okay, so this is the thing about the ending. Once the nuke goes off and everything, you see like the menu is all like destroyed and stuff like that. You can go back into the game and you can continue playing. With
and
the progress.
it's all the same. It's not destroyed.
Yeah, with the progress that you've already had.
I was wanting it to be all destroyed. I thought that
I
would've
was
been
too.
cool.
I thought that would have been a
like
really
literally
cool...
they could have had all the little side stories be exactly the same, but just have all the environment completely different and destroyed in ashes.
That'd be quite a lot to do.
It would be. I understand why they didn't. But
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
The thing is though, like before I did the very ending, I did every single story mission. I did every single side mission, every little stash and stuff like that, so that I could, get the full extent of the game. And then I went to do the final story, and I don't know if it contributed to the ending where you see all your friends, like if you do all the side missions, if they all show up or not, or if you only do some of them.
I think one of them I did not do his mission, but he showed up, so I think they're all there regardless.
They're all there regardless. Okay.
Because I was like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah, because I did all of them, so that's why I was assuming. Because that's in other games like Skyrim, for example, there are places you go to near the end of the game where if you do more side missions, more of the people show up. So that's what I was assuming was going to happen. So I did everything. And once you go back into the game, when like you've done all the side missions and everything and you've liberated all the outposts and stuff, nobody is there. Like there is nothing to do. Like
Nothing
you can,
at all. There's no enemies at all.
like there's barely any enemies. Like you'll once in a while seen some like randomly spawn in certain places, and sometimes they'll be on the hillsides. But it feels like there's like a set amount of enemies in the game, because once you do all the missions and stuff like that, once you encounter enough of them on the roads and stuff like that, they just never show up anymore. And you can redo. I think you can redo like the outposts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just like I wish there was.
If you're gonna replay it, you have to replay the whole story. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I was kind of disappointed at the end, because there are games like Skyrim, for example,
where you can just keep doing stuff.
Like there is like even the smallest little side missions that you can just like keep doing and stuff like that. And there's just so much more to do that you don't feel ever like complete with the game.
Yeah.
But this one I felt like I was done. Like there was nothing else to do. Like I can do weapon challenges and stuff, but there's no enemies.
Exactly.
So
it's kind of like if you ever played the original Crackdown. Once you actually complete everything, it's literally like an open world game, and you can go back to the open world. But you just took each section away from like these gangs and whatnot. And once you take the section, the section's clear of any enemies. So you can go back into the game to this open world, but there's literally not one enemy in it. And it's like, what's the point of being able to go back? Like, I can't
Yeah.
even do anything. I already did everything. I guess you can find collectibles, but there's no point in that.
Well, see, even in Far Cry, I did that. I did the side missions that
Yeah.
had the collectibles.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah. The only other thing, as far as the story, how often you got like kidnapped by the enemies?
yeah, that's how the story, like the
That's
main
what I
story,
thought.
was introduced.
Yeah, that's what I thought did not integrate well with the gameplay because you just got kidnapped so many times. You got away, then you got kidnapped again, then you got away, then you got kidnapped again. And it's like, this is not believable at this point. I do appreciate the story that they're telling here. I do appreciate these interactions I'm having with these bad guys when I do get kidnapped. And it's really cool. But how many freaking times are they going to capture me, do stuff with me, but not kill me? You know, it's just, at that point, it's not a thing. I did really enjoy Faith's region just because how it was strangely calming. You know, it was like they did a good job with the bliss.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the point. And they did a good job with it because, like, I don't know, it just was like, yeah, I feel you.
John
Faith.
was the other brother, right?
Yes, John was the one baptizing people. John the Baptist, kind of.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I think he was the weakest out of the siblings.
yeah,
in
he was
terms
just
of
trying
a character.
He's just trying to kidnap you and baptize you the whole time.
I felt like he got kind of muddied with like Joseph Seed himself.
Yeah,
Because they were kind of like similar guys, and so he just
Sure.
wasn't very unique.
Yeah,
He was just like a mini Joseph.
kind of.
Yeah.
Though I did really like how the story went with like in the church when he's tattooing the person's sin on their chest and then
Yeah, that was
absolving
cool.
them of the sin by cutting off the flap of skin that he just tattooed it on. And it's like, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
And then he's like gonna do it to you and stuff, and like, and then the point when he's like trying to get you to whatever it is, give in or whatever, like swear on the Eden's Gate
just say
Bible,
yes.
yeah, and say yes. But then the preacher dude, who you know has a gun in his Bible, is like he like swaps the Bibles to his gun Bible, and then you're like fine, I'll say yes, put my hand on your Bible, and he doesn't know it's not his Bible at that point, and you just pull out a gun, try to shoot him, but then you miss and you like hit him in the ear. I thought that was really cool. Like, part of me kind of wishes you actually did shoot him, but at the same time it was pretty cool because then he also rushes out and gets to the plane and everything. You gotta chase him down. I thought that was awesome. So I would say the final conflict with John was stronger than Jacob's final conflict.
Yeah.
Mainly because like Jacob's final conflict, I feel like I'm saying conflict weird. Oh well. I actually didn't even know it was Jacob when I killed him. Just because
So much going on.
yeah, there's so much. You just small little army in front of you, and there's a sniper on top of the mountain, and the sniper kept shooting me. And the sniper's really annoying. So I killed like half of the people. I was like, oh, the sniper's annoying, so I just swapped to my explosive arrows, and I just like arced it and shot, and then killed him. And it was like, objective complete. You killed Jacob Seed. I was like, oh, I just did the objective because it didn't tell me to kill Jacob Seed. It didn't pop up with that objective. I don't know if it was supposed to or not, but it did not tell me that. So I just knew that it was a sniper that was really annoying.
I just ran up to him and beat his ass.
There you go. But yeah.
And then he was just on the rock afterwards, and then you celebratory teabag a little bit afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was one thing with John where you could literally grab his body afterwards and just like throw it around.
Yeah.
I kind of did a little bit of that. But yeah, that's the thing with like each of their story arcs and whatnot. John's being the weakest. I thought the final resolution with him was the strongest. Because Faith's was all right. As far as how you fought her with the hallucinations one, that was a little weird. I didn't have a problem with it, but it's just like okay. Just because you never actually saw Faith not in the druggy hallucination state. It was just like,
True.
because I was expecting just to come out, but then she's just like, I'm gonna die in this water now, and it's like, you just never see her after that. I think you come back into the real world once she's actually dead, if I remember right. But so that was just a little odd that I kind of wanted to see her in real life, because she, tells the story how she was just a heroin addict, and Joseph
So
came
abused.
and he like gave her something new. However, he was not necessarily better than the world that she grew up in, and he just directed her into a new direction and gave her hope, but still abused her and still got her addicted to different types of drugs. And I just really wanted to see the not druggy Faith. I thought that would have done a lot for her story arc. But you just never did. You killed her, and then the not druggy Faith is a dead Faith. Which maybe right there, that is like, maybe that's something.
No.
But yeah, and then that was one thing though, is the story was just very strong with each character though. They all had their particular niche, their particular reason and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to point out something to you for John's region.
Yeah.
The giant yes symbol that's on the hillside, that's supposed to be like the Hollywood sign. If you go look right behind that, then it's like graffiti.
Yeah.
And it says Eden's Gate sucks.
Wasn't it like the father stinks or something?
Yeah, the father sucks, the father stinks, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because you just don't really think about that until you go up there. It's like, oh.
Because
it's a nice little Easter egg.
There's no point in the story where you intentionally go up there, not like when you're destroying like Joseph's statue or anything like that. So I'm just looking at it up on the hill. I'm like, there's probably an Easter egg up there. I should go check it out. So
exactly,
minor thing.
Yeah,
appreciated.
Yeah, but then like with such strong gameplay, they had very, very strong dialogue to complement the whole game. And I think that's what really brought it together.
Even like the motion capture and stuff was actually pretty decent.
Yeah, the motion capture was really good. This had really good graphics, and like because the actor who plays Joseph Seed, he's on a show called Frontier. It's with Jason Momoa and whatnot. It's on Netflix. It's originally like on Discovery Channel in Canada, but I've watched it on Netflix. It's a really good show, by the way. But the actor is in there, and so with Joseph Seed, I was like, this guy looks really familiar. He sounds familiar. I don't know what it is, and then so like I looked it up, and it was that guy. So
and he looks the same.
Yeah, he looks like just it's the video game version. So like maybe just a little slightly different. Because like if you want to talk like that is the exact same face and exact same actor, like Star Wars Force Unleashed. Nothing gets more close than that was right there, because that was literally just him, the actor who was Starkiller.
And this is more in like the PC space of things, but in Star Citizen, which is not a release game, it's a game perpetually in development.
Yeah.
But their motion capture is like, it's like incredibly spot on and 1-to-1.
Nice.
Because I mean, a lot more modern games are treating it more like the voice actor is like an actor in a movie.
Yeah.
So they want it to feel very natural, so the face matches the voice. And what better way to do that than to copy the exact face?
Exactly.
So.
With actually, I feel like I kind of realized why the end of the game just kind of felt a little like tight, and it's like, this is the end, now it's over. Each time you defeated each character in their region, you learned more about them in the conversation you had with them.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't learn more about Joseph Seed.
That's an excellent point.
You pretty much learned everything about him through his conversations at the beginning of the game, and then each time you defeat one of his siblings, he has a little monologue where he's just kind of just talking to the camera.
And he talks to you over the radio, like, a little bit, but that doesn't reveal a
Yeah,
lot.
you learn a whole lot about the siblings, but you don't learn that much about him.
Yeah.
You do learn some pretty dark things about him, but just not those intimate, like, things like with Faith, like saying how she was a drug addict before and whatnot. Jacob, was deployed to Afghanistan and whatnot, and, like, how he was stranded with his one fellow, like, Marine, and he ended up killing and eating his, like, Marine so he could survive and whatnot because he was weak, and that's what he was there for, was just to help him survive. And it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I do recall some stuff with that being for John, mainly his things with sins and tattoos and whatnot, but I don't remember too much exactly. But then with Joseph, the only thing that you get is his wife dying in childbirth, and then the child having issues breathing, and then him deciding to pinch the air tube and let it die. And that is very ultra dark, very cryptic, and it's like, damn. But that's like the most you get. And
yeah.
It's like,
I mean, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
But I feel like with the main bad guy, you should get at least more backstory than his siblings.
Exactly, because, like, his siblings are just like, oh, I went through this, and then Joseph came to me. Why didn't we get Joseph being like, oh, I went through this, and then I came to these people, You didn't get any of that. You just more so, I went through this.
Or it's like, you kind of want to know, like, how everything, like, started. Because, like, the people in the town, in the county, they kind of know, like, how everything kind of started going down. Because they were all there.
Yeah.
But you don't get so much of that backstory.
Exactly. If you just kind of got at least a little bit something of when the cult first started, you didn't really get anything with that. If you just got something like that, that would have helped a lot for Joseph's character. And Joseph's character, I thought, was really good. So it just kind of bummed me out to feel like it's like everyone's this big canvas, every character is this big, and then there's Joseph Seed, who is this huge canvas, but you only see this much. So it's like...
Yeah. I think some of the motion capture scenes with him could be improved a little bit, just because sometimes when I was watching him, yes, he's supposed to be very, like, calm, and, like, he's, like, saying really dark stuff most of the time.
You could definitely tell they're taking from stories of real cults and the leaders and whatnot, and trying to infuse him.
But I think they should have, like, brought it up just a little bit of a notch, because sometimes it felt, like, very stale when he was talking to you. I think it was mostly because of, like, the facial expressions and stuff like that. He sometimes he almost looks like he's, like, not really moving at all.
I would say that is kind of part of the actor. He's kind of got one of those stiff faces, and he kind of portrays his numb emotions through that.
Okay. So, I guess motion capture wouldn't help that either.
Yeah. Not to say, like, definitely he was more stiff than the actual actor is.
Yeah.
But to a degree, I think it was just kind of the actor.
Okay.
To a degree.
That's fine.
I'm not putting all the blame on the actor. But yeah, that wraps our review for Far Cry 5. Really good game, really good story, really good gameplay. So I definitely suggest checking it out and playing it a little bit. And if you don't like it, then, screw you.
Go fuck yourself.
But while you're fucking yourself, you should like and subscribe and make a comment
about how you're gonna go fuck yourself.
And then watch more videos, and maybe you can fuck yourself while you watch more of our videos, and then you could just be filled with regret afterwards.
All right, guys, see ya. I'm gonna go fuck myself.
That's good for me.